Welcome to the Burial Plot Horror Podcast with Brenda Tolian and Joy Yaley.
Welcome to the Burial Plot, where myself, Joy Haley, and my co-host, Brenda Tolian, bring you the best of horror and its creatives. We've both been reading like fiends this summer and thought since summer still has a slight heartbeat, we would share what we've been reading and maybe help you find your next read. So grab your favorite beverage, a notebook and a pencil, and be prepared to write down some titles and authors. Hi, Brenda. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good.
Good. I thought we'd start our discussion. I've been reading this one off and on this summer.
Amazing, because I have been reading it too.
And the other really cool thing is we're both in it.
That is even
Hollie
cooler.
And Henry Snider were the editors on this book, and I found them to be extremely enjoyable to work with. I learned a lot from them.
Me too. Me too.
One of the things that what surprised me about them is that they're so accomplished, but they were so willing to give you so much of their time and knowledge, which sometimes you don't always see that in the community, but they were really great. And there are some scary stories in here.
Oh, yeah.
Weird stories in here.
And the list is like amazing. I mean, you just start with the introduction with Goingback.
Yes.
Who I love and adore as a writer. And then, I mean, just looking at all of these people that were in the book, I'm still working on it because I have been reading insane amounts for school and stuff. But the stories I have read have been awesome, including yours, by the way. Horde really freaked me out. It was quite the tale. I don't know. There's so many. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Your Blood Mountain, that's one of my favorites in this one for sure. And The Screaming Tree by Dana Fredesti. Oh my gosh, that one was so good and scary and weird.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend this one if you're interested in Wendigos.
Yeah, and it has a lot of different people. So it's R. Michael Burns, Angela Sylvain, Ian Niley, who else? Dana Fredsetti, T.L. McMillan, Michael Gore, Amanda Headley, of course yourself, Rafe James White, Ross Baxter, Katie Webster, Ray Zenek. Oh no, there's no N. Zach? Deck? Elena Grummel, who we both love very much. Marlon Bresci, of course, my story. Our beloved Steve Rasnic Tem.
I love Steve.
Yeah, just JT Evans and Christoph Maso. Is it Maso or Maso?
I think it's Maso, and I think he has a new novella coming out soon.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
through DT Publishing, right?
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one too. One of the things I'm really proud of with this book is a portion of the gross proceeds is going to the Southern Ute Indian tribe for their COVID-19 relief fund. So since released during COVID, I really thought that was a nice touch that Josh Schlossberg, who's the editor, arranged to have happen. So
yeah, so it's doing some good out there in the world besides entertaining people. Yeah, and it's a very strong book. I highly recommend that one for sure. Gosh.
I liked that one too. And then speaking of Steve Rasnic Tem, who we both adore for various reasons, I read, I think you did too, for book club.
Yeah.
Let me see. Am I sharing that screen correctly? Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Okay. We read Ubu for the Denver Horror Collective's Book Cult, which is the book club that anybody can join. And this was like, first of all, he made the aliens or whatever they are so freaking creepy.
Yeah. He uses history in a unique way in his exploration of male perpetuated violence. Is that how you would say it?
Yes, that's how I would say that exactly. Yes. And it gave me a lot of food for thought about a lot of different things. And the twist in it, I didn't see it coming at all. I was like, what? So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's definitely, it kind of crosses genres.
I think
So
so. Yeah.
it definitely has a historical factor, which I don't always think gets tangled up in when you're describing it, but it has the historical, it has science fiction, and it has horror. And it's engaging, and you can't put it down once you start it. I mean,
No,
actually, no, there's times where you have to put it down because some of the characters are doing some pretty
it's pretty intense.
brutal. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you just got to take a little break maybe, and then of course you come back to it because you need to know where it's going after that. You know, it's quite
And
the
Steve
read.
is such a in his person. Steve is just seems like he's such a peaceful and gentle person. And when you read this book, the juxtaposition against him as a person is just like, wow.
Yeah, exactly,
Right?
and you know he's just so giving with
Yeah, he is.
you know, tips and, you know, writer's tips and how he was inspired and telling you the story of what was going on in his life as he was writing it. And
It's very
all of
open.
those things just make him just a epic writer because he is epic. He's always writing. He's always putting out work. I forgot how much he has out there, but it's unbelievable. Um, and then but then he's willing to sit down with folks and just talk writing, you know, and that makes him just one of those special writers who's willing to connect with other writers and his readers in kind of a personable level, and you don't always see that in an author. So that makes the book, anything you read of his, extra special, I think.
Absolutely. And I think that you read the book by his wife, Melanie. It's on
I
my to read list. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I think you were kind of delving into it a little bit.
that I read was The Black River. And I started both of the books of hers that I got at the same time, but I wanted to read Black River because it was a woman dealing with the grief of losing her son, and that's something close to me because I lost my brother and my mom, you know, lost her son, and I you don't understand. There's no way to understand that grief, you know,
Yeah.
that you're going through when you lose a child. I don't. I've been very close, unfortunately, but I've never crossed over that bridge, and that kind of grief. I I I don't think unless you've gone through it, it can be expressed realistically as much as Melanie did in her book. And it's haunting, but it's also so beautiful. It's a beautiful book. You know, it starts from right when the character discovers that a child has passed, and then she's kind of going out of her mind a little bit, and she's getting jerked into different points in the past, not her past, but like the collective past of mothers, into
Mm.
other mothers' stories where they have also lost children. And it's immensely powerful. Um, Honestly, I think this book should be like studied at the university level because it's that strong, it's that well written. It's just very, very beautiful. And to know that she was going through pain when she was writing it
Yeah.
makes it even more striking that she had that strength and could fall back on writing to be able to express what she was going through and the grief and everything. And probably unknowing, she wrote this book and it can help other people,
Right.
you know? Um, so I'm going to definitely put that up there in one of my most um, beloved books and one of the most well crafted books I have ever read. It is definitely in my book a classic literary fiction. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous book, but it's also very heart-wrenching. So,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's on my list to read, but I haven't yet because I know it's going to be heart-wrenching, and I feel like I
yeah.
have to be prepared for it or something. I don't know. But that's one thing about both the Tems as writers. They're very willing to sort of just open themselves up to their readers, which I really respect that.
I think we could also mention, since we're talking about both of them, is they also had this other book. I don't know how well you can see it.
There you go.
Yours to Tell.
Nice.
Um, and it's beautiful because it's dialogue between both of them. So it's almost like reading like a screenplay or something. It's dialogue between the
Nice.
both of them on how to write and how to write your best work and how to approach stories and stuff. So I highly recommend this book too, for writers out there. It's dialogues on the art and practice of writing, and they both practice what I would call the art of writing. So
Nice.
this is definitely a book all writers should have as well.
See, another one that I read this summer that I would highly suggest for anybody that wants to write dark fiction is Tim Wagner's
Oh
Writing
yeah,
Dark.
I got mine
My
too.
goodness, all bookmarked like mine.
Yeah, I got all the little.
He also, earlier this summer, he hosted a writer's workshop. And the other thing about Tim Wagner, too, that I was impressed with, he's published all over the place. He's an amazing teacher and writer, but he treats, like, I consider myself still a newbie, and he is so willing to just sit down and talk to you and do feedback on your work and share all of his experiences with you. I mean, it is amazing to me that people are so giving in the community. But his book has been quite instrumental for me. And the thing I like about his chapters is he talks to other people. It's called Voices of the Voices from the Shadows, and he gets other writers' takes on what he's saying. And one of my favorite writers is in here in one of the quotes, Ronald Malfi, who wrote Bone White. If you haven't read Ronald, check him out. He's very scary. But he says the most effective horror is the horror that unsettles and disturbs, as opposed to attempting to scare. It's all about atmosphere and dread. And I think I try to put that into my writing. I try to just make it, I want you to feel uneasy. I want you to feel like somebody's standing behind you while you're reading this story and freaking you out. And Tim does a good job about helping you kind of focus on that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I got it, and then I was teaching dark speculative fiction this summer for Alchemy Writers Workshop from that's headed by Hilary Leftwich, who we'll probably talk about in a few too. But I was recommending his book to my students as well because it's just so it's easy to understand. It's written for everyone. It's not just written for one set of writers. Anybody can, whether you're advanced or whether you're just starting out. This book is fantastic for pulling your skills out. So I definitely, highly recommended it to them and anybody else that is out there writing at any level.
Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, it also has lots of good exercises you can try, which are good as well. And in his workshop, he also announced that he was coming out with a workbook to pair with it. So I'm watching for that because I'm really interested in that coming
Isn't he going to have workshops, or has he had workshops on it too? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's kind of what we did this summer. But he had a lot of other people involved in that workshop.
Oh, okay.
One of them was Donna Lynch, and she's actually a dark poet. And I went to her session, and it was really nice because she's very, very down to earth and very just kind of zen. She was just really zen, and it was kind of cool. And we wrote poetry, which I'd never really tried my hand at. And she was so encouraging and kind to me that I bought her book and read it. And it's one of those books where some of the stuff really resonates. It's not really horror, some of it is, but not all of it. But it really resonates. And I've never been really much of a poetry person, but she really excited me about exploring poetry more, especially dark poetry.
Yeah.
So I was excited about that. And we also had Hillary Leftwich on, who you were talking about.
Nice
from Alchemy.
segue.
And
Did you plan
she
that?
also writes poetry. I did not plan that. Let's see. Oh, there you go. This cover is like freakalicious. And she writes poetry as well. So.
I think her partner Jay did that photograph.
Really?
Yeah, he's a writer also. He's a writer and a photographer as well. So they got quite the artistic household, I guess you could say.
Pretty cool. This one is
Jay Hasley. That's his name, Jay Hasley.
That's right. Yes.
I like bleeped out. Sorry, Jay. But yeah, that book is
Ghosts
something else.
Strangers who know how to knock.
Yeah.
And there are some pieces in here that I know this sounds really weird, but I felt like she was writing it for me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this book is super special to me. I've got little notes written in it and things because it moved me. I know it's kind of strange to say
I do too. I actually so she's a graduate of Regis University that I'm graduating from this week or next week. And I heard about her all the time because she's kind of like, the rock star or whatever, but she got up and read, and I was too nervous before that to even approach her, right? And stuff. And then after she read, what she read hit me so hard as like a single mom with a child that has special needs, and just everything she went through. I felt the same way. I was like, holy crap, this woman like knows me or something, and stuff. So I actually took her book up and had her sign the one poem that really, really, or it was a flash piece, a flash fiction piece. I was like, can you sign it here? Because I feel like this you were writing for me. And so she signed that and stuff like that. And then that has actually blossomed into a wonderful friendship and partnership. She's really been a wonderful mentor to me. And she has another book coming out, and for the life of me, why can't I remember what it's called? Do you remember?
It's a memoir, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had her on our show. I forget which episode she's on, but she talks about that. And starting in a couple of weeks, I'm going to take her tarot writing class, which I'm very excited for. She's also a person who's very accomplished, but makes time for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she really does. And her whole alchemy writers workshop, she charges fees and stuff like that, but she does everything to make sure there's scholarships and money there for people who can't afford it, so that, if your dream or your passion or you want to try out writing, that you have the ability to pursue that. Mm-hmm. And she wanted that because she was one of those people that struggled, just like I was one of those people that struggled, and and stuff. So scholarships are there to help people be able to take the classes. So I encourage everybody to go look for Alchemy Writers Workshop. But she also has author services. She's a wonderful editor. She's wonderful. So, writers who have books that they need someone to take a look at, like, professionally, she also has that going as well. So, and she's always out there reading. So if you ever have a chance to see her read, do it. Yeah, for sure. Because you will not be disappointed. She's very, very powerful.
Through her services, she will like help you do your book launch parties and all that kind of stuff. So recently she did a book launch for her friend, J. Allen Cross.
Oh, yeah.
And his book, American Brujeria, which I read this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I even have a picture of my grandma.
Aww.
And my sister and myself. That was just days before my grandmother passed. And as I'm reading this, it's like the reason the picture is in there because, oh my gosh, these are all things that my grandma taught me that I had forgotten.
Wow.
The things like, this is a very funny thing, but there's a whole chapter on the magic of Vicks Vapor Rub.
Really?
Absolutely.
Is
Yes.
magic for Vicks Vapor Rub?
Yes. Vicks Vapor Rub is actually extremely powerful for magic and healing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it was just it's a neat book. It's interesting. I don't practice Brujeria, but it was a very interesting read.
Uh-huh.
And it sort of jogged a lot of memories of things that I had forgotten. And it kind of felt like a nice little trip down memory lane. And some of the information is really good. He has a whole chapter in here on Santa Muerte and why you probably don't want to mess around with that unless you're like from the culture. And I think that's a good warning sometimes for people, because when I was researching it for a story I was writing, people that I talked to that were devotees were like, well, now that you're looking at her, she's going to look back. And I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. But it was true. I started seeing her everywhere, and I was like, So if you're interested in that kind of thing, folk magic, specifically Mexican folk magic, Mexican American, that was a good book. And Hillary did a really nice job at the book launch. It was very fun.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Very smooth. She's a very talented person. We both read a Stephen Graham Jones book.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
And this one right here, it was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. And it's his take on the Dear Woman, which I loved this book.
Me too. I love the idea of his very unique final girl.
Yes.
And her power and her compassion. You don't see that a lot, especially from male writers, I think. So it was special in that way. A very, I don't know, there was other things about it that I think, especially being a white woman, that one doesn't always think about Native American culture and life on the reservation. And, he just gave this window that I hadn't looked through before. I mean, he's wrote a little bit like in other stories, but I don't think quite as it hasn't come out as strongly as in this book.
I agree. And some of the scenes in this book are shocking.
Yeah.
You think you know where it's going, and then you don't have any idea where this is going.
Yeah, and he's a very, I don't know if he would like to be called this, but he's a very postmodern writer. So he doesn't follow the rules.
No, not at all.
And his books are always very, almost like movie film reel inducing in the brain. And it's not, there's just nobody that writes like him right now, and his ability to touch on themes of like motherhood, of camaraderie among brothers and friends, he touched on there's so many wonderful themes in the book that I couldn't recommend it enough to anybody. He also won Stoker, right?
Yes, it did win a Stoker Award this past year.
Yeah.
And because I'm such a huge fan of his, I read all the way through the author note at the back of the book. And it brought me to tears.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows how to hit me just exactly right.
Yeah.
So if you read this book, I suggest you read the author's note. It has to do with missing and murdered Indigenous women, which is a topic very dear to my heart. So, yeah, read it.
Yeah.
I love
yeah.
everything he ever writes. I eat it up. I'm waiting for the Mannequins, Night of the Mannequins. I haven't read that one yet. And he has a new one coming soon, right? Is it
My
My
heart is
Heart Like a Chainsaw?
yeah.
Yeah.
That comes out in August. I already pre-ordered it, so I think it comes out in August. I don't think it's hit my. He also wrote an interesting little. I think it's a vampire kind of story.
Oh, yeah.
Wait for the Night, which is it's short. So if you have a short attention span, it's easy and quick to read. But it is a story as only can come from his mind. It's very entertaining. It's very creepy. Um, he always has interesting like cars and stuff like that in his stories, and just like, and he writes about the everyday man too, so, this without like giving it away, it's a very, I guess you call it a blue collar kind of job that's going on. He writes for everybody,
Yeah.
another writer. I think that everybody can be like, oh, identify in some way to whatever he's writing at the time. So that's Wait for the Night. He also has what you said, Night of the Mannequins, and I believe both of these came out over the summer, early spring.
Yeah.
So they're out there too.
And then I read an older book that he's in.
Oh yeah.
Anthology. Let me see if I can find a picture of it here. Let's see. Don't know how to share my screen. Am I sharing the screen? No, not yet. Hang on.
Not yet.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah.
Straight out of Deadwood. This one has a lot of great writers in it.
Yeah, it does.
And you suggested this one to me because I was writing something similar to what was in his story. And it was, you were trying to help me have a heads up and get an idea going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yeah, I'll read it. And then I ended up just devouring the whole thing from cover to cover because some of these are really good. And this is a genre that I really, really dig. The Wild West horror, or weird Wild West, I guess they call it. I love that stuff. So that's another good one that I would suggest.
He's in there. And, well, like I was telling you earlier, I had to beg to be able to use it to study it for my master's work, because my mentor, Mario Acevedo, also has a wonderful story in there. And he wasn't letting me use his books for my master's thesis for study. I had to just read those for fun. But he finally allowed me to read this book for my thesis, partially because I wanted to see what a good collection looks like and really look at what makes a collection, work and stuff. So I would definitely recommend that book because all the stories definitely work. And I might be just, fangirling, but I love Stephen Graham Jones, and I love Mario Acevedo.
True. I love everything that Stephen Graham Jones writes, so I just eat him up. So.
And I'm a huge fan of Felix the Vampire, which is in kind of a lot of Mario's books. And so if you can read any of Mario Acevedo's books, I highly recommend them. They are very entertaining, and you will love Felix the Vampire as much as I do because he's just awesome.
Yeah, he's good too. I like his stuff. Some of his stuff is kind of weird and funny. He has a piece in the Ghost Town Writers Retreat anthology, and it's about boys that find that one of their brothers comes back from the Middle East, and he's brought this magic lamp with him, and the boys accidentally wake up the genie, and the stuff that they ask for is hysterical. And the consequences of what they ask for is also quite hysterical. For people that don't know, usually if you go to a writer's con or a writer's retreat, sometimes you will get a anthology put together by the con. This is the one from StokerCon this year.
Yep. This
one is unique. It's got short stories, and it's got interviews, and it's got some really beautiful artwork.
Yes.
The artwork that I adore. And the cover of this book. Oh my God, this is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Josh Viola is the editor of that one.
Mm-hmm. It has our Jameis Welks.
Yes.
Wrote it,
James
Own It,
Wilson
Love It,
there.
Rock It. Who else is in there? Well, Mario's in there.
Mario's in there. I think that
Mario's in there twice, isn't he? He's in there twice. He has a story, Blue Saphir's Prophet, but then he also has
that's
a
right.
conversation with Sylvia Moreno Garcia, another author we love.
Yeah, Angie Hodap. I love her too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who else is in here. There's all kinds of people in here. I'm reading through it right now. Karina Bissett.
Mm-hmm.
She is a good friend.
We have future guests Michelle Brittany and Nicholas. Is it Dyack or Dak?
Dyack.
Yeah, talking about the Anne Radcliffe academic conference in there.
Stephen Graham Jones has a story in here as well.
Yeah, it just has.
The Denver Horror Collective wrote a little ditty about what they do here in Denver for horror writers, which is nice. And StokerCon is coming physically to Denver next May. So get your tickets because I will be there doing, I don't know, lurking in the shadows somewhere, I think. But
we'll be lurking together. Maybe we'll have it. We should have a table. Maybe we should have a table.
That's an idea. Maybe we should.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Have conversations and make weird. We can make a weird movie of being at StokerCon or something. You know.
Oh, that would be actually kind of fun.
I know. Be like, do you want to be in a movie?
Let's do that.
Watch us with our tongues hanging out of our mouths as our favorites walk past. You know.
Yeah. Giggling nervously and acting like a total goofball, which is what I did when I met Stephen Graham Jones. We are in an anthology together, which was like my dream come true. The Tarot 5280 that Denver Horror Collective put out, he is in that and I am in that. And we were at the first reading of that at Book Bar.
Wow.
And it was my first public reading, really, and he was there, and I was just like such a goofball. And afterwards, you know, we all run around and signed each other's books, and he was signing my book, and I was just like, that's so stupid. Yeah, I was embarrassed.
I didn't even, the first time I watched him read, I didn't even know who he was. You know, I thought he was just another, just another professor hanging out, to teach us students at Regis and stuff. And he was on a panel and stuff. And then afterwards, him and Mario read first. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy writes some crazy stuff. I want to write that. But then Stephen Graham Jones got up and read one of his stories. Oh gosh, I know I have a copy of it somewhere and I can't even think of it. It's not even one that I don't even know if it's published anywhere, but it was one of the most horrific love stories I have ever heard in my entire life. And I'm watching all my fellow students as their faces are getting all twisted and weird because they're totally freaked out. And I'm just watching Stephen Graham Jones read and I'm just like, that's what I want to do. It was that moment that I knew that is what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to write whatever he is writing. So yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. Yeah.
He's a very cool guy. He's very chill, very normal person. And he probably goes and tells people, "Guy, I went to this book signing and this lady that was there with us. Watch out for this one." No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't act that ridiculous. I hope not, but you never know. It's possible. Another one that we both read that we adore was Mexican Gothic.
Yes.
By Sylvia Moreno Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
And did she win or she was nominated? I can't remember now.
She was nominated, so it was in the same bracket with Stephen Graham Jones, and I'm not even sure who else was in that, but I know it was her and him both had best novel. I think maybe Josh Mellerman might have had a book there.
Oh, I love Josh Mellerman too. Oh my gosh, he's great. He won something, right? And then he did the piano.
Yeah, so he
That
won,
was
I think,
fun.
for a short story. Yeah. Yeah, he's an awesome guy. And then we both went to the talk for her.
Yes.
She just hearing her read from her own novel was amazing. Myself and my daughter are both huge fans of the book, and the audiobook of it, I have both. So I have the book and then I have the audiobook, and the audiobook is read, I don't even know who reads it, but her voice is kind of similar.
Yeah.
Um, so to hear her read her work was just, it was just awesome. She read it exactly how it runs in my head,
Me too.
and
Yeah.
um, the idea of, well, she has a very interesting, lead character, I guess kind of a final girl too, who,
Definitely.
is, you see her changing and kind of growing and coming into her power throughout the book. But then she also touches on a lot of the subjects that I love talking about. So trauma on the female body, um, motherhood, monstrous motherhood, um, just all those kinds of things that are just more of what I want to see in books, especially coming from female authors. Um, and it's a gorgeous book. It is very, I think there's definitely elements of horror in it, but it definitely is what it calls itself, Gothic. It's a wonderful example of Gothic literature to me.
Absolutely. It checks all of the boxes for me. I read I read the book and listened to the audiobook
Mhm.
at different times just because I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And her characters, I can't say enough about the characters she's created for this story. I adore them all. She's done such a wonderful, fabulous job. And then, to find out at StickerCon that she's just a working mom like everybody else with a day job, I was kind of blown away by that because I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
I think because people think if you get a book deal or something like that you automatically become like Stephen King and, or suddenly rich, and you're not. Almost every writer I know has one or two jobs besides writing the wonderful books that they write. And so being able to see especially a female writer that understands the struggle is real, and is still doing all these amazing things, and still, she's writing all the time.
Yeah.
She has, I think she even came out with another book since then. And yeah, so I just look up to her definitely as an
Me
aspiring
too.
writer.
Yeah, absolutely. And her voice is just so unique and diverse. I didn't know she was in British Columbia either. I thought she was in the American Southwest. I had no idea.
Yeah, and as I think that's why my daughter loves her so much is, my daughter specifically studies like the Southwest and getting into South America and Mexico. Like that's kind of her thing that she studies, and she loved how well researched this book was, and the telling of history that doesn't get told very much. The history in that book is real.
Yeah,
Definitely. And stuff. And it's a history that we don't learn about in school. We don't even really learn about it in college unless you're going to take some specialized classes and, in Mexican history or something. You're not going to get that knowledge. Most people are never going to know that is a part of Mexican history. And so I thought I heard she was going to actually either write a paper or a book about the history.
Oh, that would be amazing. I hope she does.
I was thinking, I swear I heard her say that, but I could be totally wrong. But wouldn't that be wonderful if she
That
did?
would be amazing.
So maybe if she's listening, hey, if you aren't doing it, we would love a book that talks about the history in your book.
Get on it, Sylvia. Come on.
Yeah. No, actually, if she hears this, we'd just love to have her on the show, right?
Oh, yes. You could watch me totally fangirl and make an even bigger goofball of myself. That sounds good.
Oh, my daughter would be hanging over my shoulder and stuff. Yeah.
Her and me both. But yeah, that was a really nice experience with her at StokerCon. Like I said, she's just, I don't know what I was expecting, but she was so just down to earth and normal and smart and just, I don't know what I thought she was going to be. I guess I kind of had, built her up in my mind because I'm so fangirl over her book, but she was amazing and so open with help as well and feedback and willing to kind of chat with you on the side if she needed to or whatever. I mean, she was just great.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And then also at StokerCon, everybody was talking about this book.
Okay.
It's not a new book, but Alma Katsu, who I've read some of her other stuff, but I wanted to read this one because it's, speaking of history, it's kind of a alternate history of the Donner Party.
Oh, okay.
And I've been reading it all summer. You can see I got a little bit of water damage on it because I took it to the swimming pool. But this is excellent. This is so well researched and written, and the characters are so rich. Like, you think you know what happened to the Donner Party? No, you have no idea till you read The Hunger by Alma Katsu. So I highly recommend that one for anybody that's looking for something. Plus, she got Stephen King to make a blurb on the cover for it.
Well,
he said
that's
it's
cool.
Deeply disturbing, and it is deeply disturbing. I like seeing more disturbing fiction from women writers. I think
that's going on my list.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm dragging it all over. It's in my purse, when I'm waiting for kids, I whip it out and read it. That one is a good one. I'm going to have to read everything she's ever written now because I am just really into it. It's really good.
Let's see. I did read, and you read this before too. I was on, I actually studied him for my master's work, was Owl Goingback.
Oh, yes.
So I read Crota, and then I also read, oh my goodness, what is it? I can't think. Oh, I read Crota, and then it's in this other one. I read Crota and Darker Than Night.
Darker Than Night. I haven't read that one, but that is on the list to read.
Darker Than Night is a really freaking creepy haunted house, I guess. I think I would call. Yeah. It's a creepy house. It's a creepy house and creepy land that the house is on and whatnot. And then Crota just has the most amazing characters, monster. He made me really I normally just blast through Missouri when I'm driving to see my family in Illinois, but this time as I'm going through Missouri, I'm just like, oh dear God. There's caves below my car. Could the Crota be down there? I don't know. And he writes about some of the cave system that I'm familiar with from, just going and hanging out. Once I had a driver's license and could head out there, I'd hang out in Hannibal and in different places like that. And there's a lot of caves down there. So he just had enough. That's another person who does his research when he's writing. And, when you do great research when you're writing, there's that element of the real in the story, which makes the monster even more creepy, more scary, because you're always going to question whether he came up with that or is that real? It's going to enter your mind what that is. So
I liked the flashes from the monster's point of view.
Yeah, me too. That was
really interesting. I liked how he did that.
And you don't see that. I mean, you might see that in Anne Rice or something, or the vampires are obviously the characters and stuff, but you don't have that connection all the time to the baddie. Right. Especially a monster that at first, when this monster arrives on the page, you're just like, this thing is psycho, crazy, bloodthirsty, nuts, meat eating. Oh my God. And it doesn't occur to you that he has like an internal dialogue or he or she or whatever. It has an internal dialogue or something. And so that was surprising and really, really cool to see in a book. And partially the reason why I picked it to study. So I studied it in depth too.
I think it makes it scarier, right? It's not just this
Yeah.
mindless evil. It's actually thinking and feeling and purposefully coming for you.
Like sentient evil is far more frightening to me.
I think so too. I agree.
Far more frightening.
There's another one that we read. Oh, I know. We read together and we interviewed Angela.
Oh yeah.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
We read her novella Chopping Spree, which is part of the Rewind or Die series.
Yeah.
Which is like the 70s, 80s, and 90s type themed horror. And that was a fun read. I thought that was, it kind of took me back to my teen time as a mall rat and all that kind of stuff. So I thought
yeah, me too. And then there was all those like moments just like in the movies of that era where you're like, no, don't do it.
Don't go down there. Yeah, that was good. She's a fun person too.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's also in Consumed.
Yes, she is.
Is she?
And she might be in Terror 5280 as well. Okay. I don't have it in front of me. I'm not sure, but
she writes all the time as well.
She's got a lot of published stuff out there. A lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. She definitely, that book was, it was creepy, definitely, but it was also fun,
It was fun. I just, the whole thing of creepy, weird, that whole satanic panic that happened.
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of brings up those vibes again, too.
Oh, yeah.
All that. She hit all of the things with that one. That one was fun. Now I'm going to go back and check out some of the other books in that series because I had known about that series until she was in that. So I'm going to go back and check out a lot of those. I think.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Jones has one in there. So of course I have to go read his. And some other stuff.
Let's see. I am in the midst of reading. I've read Bird Box. I am in the midst of reading Mallory.
Oh.
And Josh Mallerman has 2 other books out now that just came out too. So Josh Mallerman has Bird Box that we all know. He continues Bird Box with Mallory, which is intense and freaky as Bird Box. And then he also has, let's see, I think Pearl.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that one. I'm gonna write
I think it's a reissue. I think it used to actually maybe even be called something else different, but Pearl and Goblin. And I'm wondering if Goblin might have been out before and has been reissued. He obviously has, he has a bunch of books.
He has a bunch of stuff out.
Yeah. And he is, he's funny.
He is a funny guy and he's very personable too. And I just could sit around and just hang out with him, I think. His Stoker,
it would be crazy to hang out with him, I think.
His Stoker acceptance speech was the best one I think I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, that was. I actually showed. I kept on showing people. I was like, you got to check this out because who would even think to accept an award this way? I'm like, that was so awesome.
It was awesome. It was so cool.
Yeah, and he's actually very encouraging of new writers, myself included. And he is he's also in a band that's really awesome.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's neat.
Too. Yeah, he has the High Strung.
Okay.
You should check them out. They're very, very fun. And stuff. But yeah, Mallory, just like Bird Box, kind of surprises me because he messes with our senses.
Oh.
And so he's taking away the ability to see therefore the reader is losing the ability to see in a way too.
Oh,
And
wow.
stuff.
That
And
must have been hard to write as well, because so much of it is visual.
yeah, like
writing.
how, yeah, I mean, that's, use your visual descriptions, make sure you get your
Yeah.
details and stuff. And he's able to describe, you know, like, I'm not gonna, gosh, Mallory, like, give out what's
No
going on.
spoilers. No spoilers.
There is that moment, it starts off with a very, like, tense moment, and she's blindfolded, and she's in the middle of chaos, and he's using the sense of hearing and touch to navigate his character through that first very intense scene. And I was just like, who even thinks of this stuff? It's, you know, like how did he even come up with that? Yeah, I highly,
He's talented, that's for sure.
I recommend the book. And I recommend his band too.
Well, you're a musician as well, aren't you? And didn't you just put out some music to the world?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I kept on like, I'll do like a song and put it out there, and then I'll just, you know, come up with a little video or whatever with folks I know and stuff, and then. But I kept on having people wanting to put it on. They're like, "Are you on Spotify? We want to put you on our, you know, a playlist." Da da da. And so I wasn't. So I was like, after people asking for copies and stuff like that, I'm like, I'll just figure out how to put it up there. So yeah. So I just quietly dropped an album from my kitchen.
That is amazing. That's awesome. I love that so much.
I live in a very tiny little apartment with my twins, and so yeah. What did I even call it? Oh, Severed Soul Songs.
Look it up, everybody. It's my new writing soundtrack, I think.
Yeah, some of it. Well, I've always played music where if I would follow punk bands, like when I was younger, I would follow punk bands. And we always joked that I was the band that would calm the punks down after an intense show. And they would, you know, punks would, you know, relax, maybe take a little nap after all their antics of pounding into each other. So yeah, that's my music for you.
So go get it, everybody. It's good. Really good. Really good.
What else?
Let's see. I think, I'm not sure if we both read this, but I read this for the book club book cult as well. And it was The Night Will Find Us by Matthew Lyons. And it's this weird, creepy story about the Pine Barrens in New Jersey, which I'd never been, but he does a great job describing what it is and what it's like there. And I thought it was going to be like a Jersey Devil type story. So I was like, okay. It's not that at all. It's worse.
Okay.
In a good way. It takes these weird, horrible twists and turns. And ultimately, it's a final girl story as well. And his final girl is similar to Stephen Graham Jones, where his final girl isn't like, I'm going to kick your butt, monster, and throw you off the cliff or something like that. She also survives because of empathy. Wow. And she is really the empathy of the story. And so I thought that was unique. And I read it, finished reading it while I was camping, which I highly suggest, reading scary woods stories while you're in the woods. It enhances it tremendously. But he was kind enough to stick around at the book cult and chatted with us about his book for, gosh, we must have talked to him for about an hour and a half maybe. And yeah, I highly suggest that one for a summer read. I thought it was really good.
What was I going to say? Oh, I don't know if you can pull this up now. I know I'm reading it and you're getting ready to read it. And it's Coyote Songs. Or do you have a copy?
I don't have a copy of it, but yeah, I wanted to talk about that one because that's the next one up that I'm reading. I've been wanting to read this one, and it's been on my list, and I'm finally like, you know what, I'm moving it to the top of the list because I just got to read it. I'm dying to read it. I see it pop up in my social media all the time. Have you started it, or you're reading it?
I have read it. I know you're going to read it, so I won't give out too many spoilers, but it's by Gambino Iglesias, who is also a very personable reader. our writer. I'm sure he's a personable reader too. He's a wonderful professor and teacher. I've taken a workshop with him. I've seen him read several times. His song, Coyote Songs, it's horror and it's noir. It is, how would I say it? It can be very violent. It definitely has body horror, which I have come to love as a genre. It's very bloody. It's very beautiful. It does have a mix of English and Spanish in it. If you aren't proficient in Spanish, I don't think it really matters because he surrounds the Spanish with context. So, if you don't know Spanish, you're not going to lose out. Don't not read the book because you don't know Spanish. Yeah, and the cover.
The cover is beautiful, isn't it?
The cover is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really, once you start reading the book, you'll understand the cover. The cover reflects the book very well. There's a lot of themes, and there's a lot of connections in the narratives and stuff. To me, it's almost like the perfection of planning out a book because there aren't a lot of books like this. And this isn't me just trying to fangirl immensely, but he has a very, and hopefully he doesn't hate Steinbeck, but the way he writes and the fashion, the way he tells a tale is like a really brutal, bloody Steinbeck.
Oh wow, yeah, that's definitely on my list. I'm gonna start it probably later today.
Yeah, it's you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. It's definitely one of those books where you might have to take a break once in a while, but you will be forced to come back. You totally will. And as brutal as it is, it's also equally as beautiful. Like, the prose and everything is very, very tight. I would even venture to say kind of lyrical. Nice. So it's I call it a work of art. It's pretty phenomenal what he did in this book. It's like something I aspire to in a lot of ways, for sure.
Yeah, I love that when I read a book where I'm like, oh, this is so well done and awesome. Why am I even bothering to write my own stuff? I love when I read that kind of stuff because it just inspires you.
Yeah, for real.
Right now, I'm in the midst of reading The Good House.
Okay.
And let me see if I can get her name right. Tenerife Do. Sorry, I probably slaughtered her first name. Why I had not heard of her before, I don't really know how that got past my radar. But this writing in this book, it's a little bit older of a release. Mm-hmm. I was kind of on a haunted house kick this summer as well, but this is written so well and so intricately done, and the characters are so rich. I feel like I am like there with them almost, and it's wow. Now I have to go back and read everything she's ever written, including her grocery list, because smokes.
Does it have a grocery list in it?
I think it does, because in the first scene she's going to the character's going to the store, right?
Yeah.
It takes you in so many, like, you sort of figure, it's a haunted house. You're like, oh, I know where this is going, blah, blah, blah. No, you do not know where this is going. It's so deep and rich, the characters and the story. And it's kind of like a gothic type tale almost.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I'm almost done. I've got like maybe an hour left of the book. Mm-hmm. And I stayed up probably till like 1 o'clock in the morning reading because I needed to know what happens.
I have it. I just can't. I started it, and then if you saw the condition of my books right now, I have stacks and piles everywhere. I have a very, 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 very tiny bedroom. There's books under my bed. There's books on the side of my bed. There's books are my headboard. I have books stashed in a little closet that's totally full. It's like bursting with books. And I have her book and I cannot figure out, like, I started it and where did I set it? I might have fallen asleep with it. So it could be like shoved
Between
down
the bed and the
somewhere.
wall. Yeah.
So anyway, I will finish it when I can find it. It's
It's
somewhere
so
in there.
good. It's
I'm
so
a very clean person, but my book situation is
out of control. Yes, I can
it,
understand.
yeah, and both of my kids are kind of OCD, so you can imagine how they feel about my books because it's pretty crazy. It's like they think that I could like it might be like Hoard, your story,
Oh my gosh.
you know. um yeah, so that's my situation. I do have books that I've purchased. So I have Stephen Graham Jones' book on pre-order.
Mm-hmm.
I also have Grady Hendrix. I hadn't read the Southern Book Club, Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires.
That's also on my. I want to read it. I love
Actually,
reading.
I did start that a little bit at my mom's, and it's so far pretty pretty awesome. And then I got the Final Girl support group.
Oh yeah.
And I guess they're kind of connected somehow. Like they're connected, but there's like years between them, so they take place in the same universe and same place, I think,
Oh wow.
and
Cool.
stuff. So I have those two to read, and then
The first thing of Grady's I ever read was My Best Friend's Exorcism. And I listened to it on audiobook. And one evening I was listening to it and I was cleaning my kitchen. I was home by myself. And there's this part where the demon speaks. And it's like this weird demonic language. I got freaked out. Had to turn the book off. And I was like, I feel like I need to put my phone in holy water after that. I mean, it was so crazy.
Oh wow.
And I think I heard somewhere that maybe Netflix has picked that up.
Oh, okay.
I think may have picked that book up. I hope so. I'd love to see a movie version of that.
Yeah. You know what I did read this summer, for the first time, was I actually read Jaws.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I've actually never read the book. Never.
Eventually. And I know some people, I know most, actually when I see people talking about it, most people prefer the movie, but I really prefer the book. The book was very entertaining and I could see why it was freaking people out back then. So I did finally read that one. And then I had started, my daughter and I are both, because she's actually on a archaeological, she's into archaeology as her degree and everything. So she's out penning prehistoric things out in Utah right now. So before she headed out, I got her and I both a copy of Thunderhead, which is by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. And it's a pretty freaky book. I actually found it because I was trying to do research on skinwalkers, and I wanted to see how other authors had tackled the skinwalker, because I'm working on my next novel. And it's a pretty entertaining book, I have to say. I'm really, really liking it, and it's probably freaking her out to no end out there in Utah, out in the middle of nowhere.
Read the scary book out in the woods. It's worth it.
Like, well, and she loves scary, so my other daughter doesn't, but that one definitely does. So that was when I was kind of reading Thunderhead, and I was reading Mallory. And then I have read it, but I hadn't listened to it in the car to and from going to visit my family in Illinois. I was just there's something different about listening to someone read a book than just reading it yourself. So I revisited Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby, which is on the New York bestsellers list, and is having. Or no, sorry, it's his new one. Razorblade Tears is the one that's on that. This is the book before that, Blacktop Wasteland. And it's more, I guess, crime noir or something like that rather than horror. But it's very visceral. It's very raw. Dare I say, I don't know how much you'd appreciate this, but I love Hemingway, so he reminds me of being a strong writer, like like our modern Hemingway, except he's not Hemingway. He's, Crosby. So, and it has just the opening and how he's describing these old cars and stuff. There's a point where he's like comparing a car to, like the illuminated blues and greens in the ocean, the bioluminescence, that I was like, I had to stop it and back it up just to hear it read out loud again, because I was like, that is some fine writing. I mean, oh my gosh, he has such command of details and words and theme and realistically portraying people, and they're people like you feel like you would meet them out there. Like they're just so real.
That's awesome.
So I can't recommend that book. Either one of them, Blacktop Wasteland or his Razorblade Tears, that's out now and is on the top 10 list or something. He's
he's going places with that stuff, I think.
Yeah, and he's a very humble.
Yeah, he is. I know that he just recently lost his mom, and he was really open about going through that.
Yeah,
kind of sharing that with people. So I thought that was really kind of him to share his experience and maybe help somebody else along the way there, because I think during this last couple of years, a lot of us have lost loved ones, haven't been able to see loved ones. And so it's just it's nice to know that you're not alone in your grief sometimes.
Oh, I think another book, I think we both read it, and I think it should be mentioned because I really enjoyed it, was I'm going to say his name. I'm going to totally say it wrong. Josh Schloss. See? I just did it.
Josh Schlossberg.
Yeah.
Schlossberg. There's no L in there. Sorry, Josh. Oops.
Yeah.
His novella, Melanie.
Mm-hmm.
That was beautiful.
It's a wonderful piece of writing. It's very strong.
Beautiful.
It's like freaky and scary and also very tender and beautiful.
I was taken aback by how tender it was.
I know,
because it's such a brutal story, but there was such tenderness in it, and the characters are like, I can't even explain it, but they were like real people.
Yeah.
And I got sucked right into their life immediately and wanted to know what was happening with them. And he did a beautiful job with that.
I was like, who knew Josh was such a big softie inside?
Right? I know.
I mean, it was like, I was just, it's like everybody's grandparents and they're going through this thing and they still love each other, but they're still going through this terrible, monstrous, scary thing and stuff. And yeah, so I think that definitely, and that's through DT Publishing too, which is a new publishing house that's doing some really neat things. I don't know all the publishers of half the stuff we've said, but I know some of the stuff.
I don't either, but I do know that DNT is doing a lot with novellas right now.
Yeah, and
Christoph Meso, who's a Denver Horror Collective member, he has a novella coming out soon from DNT. I think it's called Butterfly Kisses.
Yeah.
And I got to read a little bit of it as a beta reader, and it's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Very excellent. But yeah, I thought that Melanie was very well done.
Yeah.
And it was a surprise to me because I was expecting like this brutal monster story, and it is that, but it's also this tender story between this elderly couple. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was excellent. I think you did a great job with it. Well, thanks for joining us for our scary little book talk here today. I hope that you did find a new book to read or an author that you haven't discovered before. We would be just loving to hear your impressions on some of these books in the comments, either on the YouTube channel or Twitter. We do have a Facebook page coming soon, but life kind of got in the way and hijacked my creation of that page, but I'll get back to it sometime this week. I added a bunch of books to my list, so
me too.
I'll be reading for the rest of my days. I saw a joke on Facebook that's like, I'll finish my reading list when I'm 853 years old. I was like, yeah, I can relate. There's so much good writing out there, and I appreciate some of the newer voices that I'm hearing, the different more diverse voices that I'm hearing. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. I kept on jotting down more and more of my list. So,
and every book we talked about, we'll put it in the show notes in case you didn't quite catch the name or the author, if anybody's interested in looking at those. And like I said, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the books that we mentioned here today. And I think that's all we have for today, everybody. Good reading, scary reading, and until next time, stay above ground.